Studio update 12. This video is sponsored by Squarespace, but I'll tell you more about them later. We're back. I was away for a little bit. I was helping a friend build a sculpture in the Karoo. That was a lot of fun and way harder work than I thought it would be. We ended up grafting quite hard into the nights, trying to get the sculpture ready. And then at the end of the week, we burnt it, which was very ceremonial and quite special. I really needed to get out of the cycle that I was in, and I had quite a lot of decision fatigue as well. So having someone else just tell me what to do and doing some manual labor with some good friends was the best kind of therapy I could have asked for. Came back to the studio and things have really hit the ground running. There's been a lot of very exciting developments and things on the horizon as well. Hey, Maya. It's okay. And I just jumped straight into working with charcoal, which is almost like the antithesis to graphite for me. I know that there's a lot of transferable skills between graphite and charcoal, but for some reason charcoal just keeps like eluding me in a way. And I think this time I might have cracked it. I'm hoping. One of the realizations that I've had is that graphite really struggles to get dark values. So I've had to really familiarize myself with the medium and the materials that I'm working with and how everything talks to each other, and develop techniques to try and get the darkest values out of graphite. Whereas charcoal feels like it's kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, where it's pretty easy to get dark values and the trick comes with getting lighter values. I feel like I just realized this right now, and that's maybe something that everyone was aware of, but for me, viewing it that way feels like it's cracked something open. And so I've been drawn to working with charcoal, and coming back from this little break has been a really nice way to kickstart that process. The drawing I'm working on is behind me here, and I thought that trying to work with fabric and using some of the inspiration from those previous shoots would be a great way to really test trying to work with the medium. And I can highly advise people to try and have something that they're aiming for, like a finished product that you know is going to look a certain way. I decided to jump straight in and try and draw something with charcoal as opposed to just drawing the squares and experimenting with different tones. And I think there is a place for that, but I find that you're probably going to be able to create the tone value that you think you want, or if you make a mistake, it's kind of hard to know that you've made a mistake because you just adapt the tone. You know, if you've made a mark that's too dark, then you just go, okay, well, this is a darker gradient from dark to light. Whereas working with a reference or working with a goal in mind, it feels a lot more intentional, and it's a lot more frustrating as well. But that's where the cogs actually turn, and that's where you develop your relationship with the medium, and that's where you problem solve how to do things. I've often had to walk away from this piece out of frustration because it's just not doing what I wanted to do. And actually, I don't know what the process is to figuring these things out, but you somehow take a step away and come back and try something different. So I have a bunch of different types of charcoal that I'm trying to figure these things out with, and working with different materials like tissue paper. Caught that? Tissue paper or cotton wool or brushes, and just seeing how all of those things interact. And also just one of the silly things is trying to figure out the difference between the Faber-Castell brown ones, which have soft, medium, hard, and the Faber-Castell black ones, which have soft, medium, and harden. What's the difference between those two? Because I can't see that anywhere. If anyone knows the answer to that, I would be really grateful. But there is what feels like a difference. One of them, I'm assuming, is probably like a willow charcoal, and the other one is a compressed charcoal. So who knows? But the whole process of problem solving has been really, really fun. And I've had quite a couple breakthroughs with the medium again, and I'm really excited about continuing my relationship with the medium. I think what might be really useful to do is to design just a little bit of a work along with me kind of course, or figure things out with me. It might be nice to learn along with someone who's also trying to figure these things out. So in that way, there's a lot of knowledge that maybe I won't take for granted, and it makes it a bit easier to learn from someone who's also learning at the same time. So I might try and do that for next week's video. And I also think that working with fabric or trying to draw fabric textures might be a really fantastic challenge for a lot of people to try and develop that subtlety with charcoal and that subtlety with drawing in general. Actually, I find that one of the biggest hurdles that people starting out with graphite or charcoal run into is they have such hard distinguishing lines between the tones, and it can be really effective for a lot of drawing. And then when you're trying to break through and push through, you know that you need that subtlety to really capture the volume and make things feel fleshy and realistic and like they're holding life. And I think fabric provides a really fantastic test for that. Another thing I've been working on is a little wiring tech project, and I think it's quite important to have something that satisfies the same part of your brain but is quite far removed from your practice. So for me, anything that's like painting or drawing or visual arts is going to draw from the same well, and I managed to find something that I could completely get absorbed into and go into a state of flow that topped up the well a little bit. I had this idea that I wanted to make a big walking stick that I could stomp against the ground, and every time I hit the ground it would trigger a vibration sensor, and that sensor would light up the end of this beautifully gnarled piece of wood. And so I started teaching myself how to work with Arduinos and prototype and wire something like this, but went the complete most complicated route. But it proved to be such a nice escape from the stress of the studio at the end of last month. I'm constantly just in awe of the process of how interconnected it all seems to be, where seemingly very random tangents of ideas, as long as you really just allow it to exist or like play with whatever is wanting to be played, somehow seems to come back around and informs something really beautiful down the line. And that's something I'm actively and continuously trying to cultivate in the studio space and in my practice. So yeah, I'm not sure what that's going to lead to, but it's so much fun, and it's yeah, we'll see what happens. Okay, now I've just chucked a bunch of capacitors over the positive and negative poles to do more of an analog fade and also stabilize the current. And then as soon as I soldered it to a PCB or got it into a more like secure, robust form that I could shove it down into the end of the stick, the connections just seemed to stop working, and I'm not sure why. So I never really got to fully realize it when I was away. Before I end this video, I just want to give a quick shout out to this video sponsor, Squarespace. I've been working with them for a couple of years now, and they've played a huge role in my career, not only in sponsoring these videos and helping me maintain this channel, but more importantly, early on in my career, I was looking for a way to showcase my work and make it easy for collectors to find me and get in touch with me. And I didn't have time to learn HTML and build a reliable, beautiful website, and I felt that Squarespace did all of that effortlessly. I never had to patch or upgrade anything. I could register a domain with them and set up an online store, and most importantly, I could design a portfolio and show my work the way that I wanted to. Also, every time I got stuck, their amazing support team helped me out instantly. So if you're looking at building a website, give Squarespace a try. And if you decide that you love them, use this offer code or the offer code in the description and get 10% off your first purchase. There we go. I hope you guys found this video entertaining or helpful. If you did, leave a like. It helps the channel out in a huge way. And if there's any questions around what's going on in the studio or in the drawing process, let me know in the comments. I'll either answer in the comments or I'll answer it in the next week's update. So yeah, thanks for the support, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.